Welcome to Illuminating Catholics, podcast of the Diocese of Sioux City. I'm Dawn Prosser, Director of Communications for the Diocese. Together with Carmen Bauer of the Faith Formation Office, we will shed light upon topics of faith in the modern church. Our guests include Catholic clergy, religious sisters, and other experts in their fields to help us understand what's happening in the church today. We will explore issues, even the tough ones, and to find answers to common questions about Catholicism. Thank you for joining us for today's Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church.
Welcome back to the Illuminating Catholics podcast of the Diocese of Sioux City. Thank you for listening to the podcast and learning about so many different aspects of the faith. Today, we would like to welcome Maggie DeWitty, Executive Director of Pulse Life Advocates based in West Des Moines and serving the state of Iowa. She's going to share information about the organization as well as details on the upcoming Iowa March for Life. So welcome, Maggie.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you guys today.
It's great to have you on the podcast. So Carmen and I both know you've been in contact with our different roles at the diocese, but maybe not everybody knows who you are. Would you share a little bit about yourself, where you're from, maybe your education?
Yeah, so I live in Clive, which is a suburb of Des Moines, and I've been in the Des Moines area for 20 years. And married for 29 years and have 4 children. And we reside at St. Francis of Assisi Catholic Church in West Des Moines. And that's been our home parish for almost 20 years. We started at St. Boniface Catholic Church when we first moved here and moved over to St. Francis because we wanted to have our kids go to Catholic school. And they had a Catholic school at St. Francis, so that's where we landed. And prior to my role at Pulse, I worked for the Diocese of Des Moines for about 10 years and served as the adoption coordinator and Respect Life contact for the diocese. So kind of have a long history of working in pro-life here in Iowa.
You do. Did you have an interest in that maybe as a young adult or newly married?
Yeah, that's always been kind of my background. I mean, you name a pro-life job, and I probably have done it at some point in my career. I started out in a group home right out of college. I graduated from UNI.
Yay.
And worked at a group home in Cedar Rapids. And, that was with, kids who had been removed from their home, removed from foster care. So kind of the modern day orphanage, really. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I actually worked for the Diocese of Peoria for a couple years and did foster care. And then moved back to Iowa and worked with more kids that were phasing out of the foster care and doing some work with kids in juvenile delinquency. And then on to my job at the Diocese of Des Moines with adoption and unplanned pregnancies, and now on to Pulse. So it's been kind of a roller coaster, but it's really led me to where I'm at now and is given me the perspective that I needed to do this job, given all of the roles that I've previously had.
Yes, it sounds like you're a perfect fit for what you do now. And how long have you been at Pulse, did you say? Or did you?
So I've been with Pulse for 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Pulse Life Advocates, I know it's formerly known as Iowans for Life. Can you share a little bit of the history about the organization and a little bit about its mission?
You bet. So Pulse Life Advocates, formerly Iowans for Life, is the longest standing statewide pro-life organization in Iowa. We were actually formed in 1972, a year prior to the landmark Roe v. Wade decision, and of course at that time legalized abortion in our country federally, which of course has now been overturned, praise the Lord. But we had a lot of forward-thinking individuals from all across the state that kind of were seeing what was happening on the national level and decided they better coalesce and get together, and they formed Iowans for Life. So now for over 50 years, our organization has been, fighting the good fight for pro-life. And when we hit our 50th anniversary, we decided we really needed to try and change things up. And that's what led to our rebranding of Pulse Life Advocates. So our mission has been, and will continue to be to educate Iowans on the sanctity of human life from fertilization until natural death.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And it is a statewide organization. And do you have representation from around the state as part of the organization and its leadership?
We do. We try to tap into all parts of the state as best we can. All of our services, that we offer, all of our assets, all of our, videos, all of that kind of stuff we offer throughout the entire state. I speak across the state, go to events across the state. So in whatever way that we can be involved. Of course, we have our board of directors that comprises different parts of the state. And then we have county groups that kind of are affiliates, so to speak, and we kind of coordinate with them a lot because sometimes they're the ones that are actually living in that area and they can help us with what's going on in their community.
Well, that's awesome to hear. So in your role as executive director, can you tell us about the work you do? I have a feeling that you have a job that doesn't look the same every day, that you have quite a bit of variety.
Yes. Yes, it is. We are education and advocacy. So we are different than the pregnancy resource centers who are actually providing that one-on-one counseling and support to women and families who find themselves in an unplanned pregnancy. We're the education. We're trying to prevent those women from coming in by educating and trying to get that culture of life created in the state of Iowa. So my role is both in the education piece, and we have a variety of different ways that we educate, including a curriculum for schools and lots of video projects, apologetics, information, those sorts of things. But then we also do advocacy. So during the legislative session, I am up advocating on behalf of the pro-life movement, along with several others, and advocating for pro-life legislation.
That's awesome. The organization does so much. And in fact, when you visit the website under what we do, there's quite the list there. What are some of the highlights that Pulse does throughout the year to educate and do their best to preach the sanctity of human life?
Well, so we always kind of have like our three-pronged approach, which is prayer, education, and advocacy. So we want to pray about it, we want to educate, and then we want you to take action because we're here to equip you. We can't do it all. And, especially as Catholics, we know we are called to this, right? This is the number one social teaching of our church, is the life and dignity of the human person. And so we all have a part to play in that. And so we want to look at ways that we can equip people. So with the prayer piece, we're very involved in 40 Days for Life, which is a prayerful presence in front of Planned Parenthood clinics, which, by the way, we have some great news on that front in that we just heard last week that 4 facilities, Planned Parenthood facilities in Iowa, are going to be closed in addition to 4 in Minnesota. So we still have abortion, we still have clinics, but that is a really big victory for the state.
Absolutely. Including one here in Sioux City.
Yes.
Closing.
Yes. Sioux City, Urbandale, Cedar Rapids, and Ames. So those are the 4 locations that Planned Parenthood will be no more. Praise the Lord.
Good news.
So we've got a presence in front of the clinics, which now will be in Iowa City and in Des Moines will be the remaining locations for the Planned Parenthoods here in Iowa. We do also sidewalk advocacy, which is an extension of the 40 Days for Life, where we're actually training people to interact with the women when they go in and help them understand that they have alternatives and they have options. So it's a very, very soft touch. We're not out shouting. We're not doing anything crazy like that. We're just really trying to make women aware that we can help them get them to a pro-life pregnancy center. So those are kind of our prayer components. But then we as I mentioned, we have a Respect Life curriculum for Catholic schools, K through 8. It's age appropriate. It's a supplement to the religion class in each grade level. We'd love to get it. Our goal is to have it in every Catholic school in the state. It is faith-based, so we haven't segued into the public school, just knowing that that probably won't be an option for us given that it is faith-based. But we feel like we need to get these kids at an early age, right? We need to start educating them at a very young age, kindergarten, that life is precious, that you're created in the image and likeness of God, and instill those values with those kids early on. And then, of course, we're doing a lot of advocacy work, like, we're at the Iowa State Fair. We've had a booth out there for years. And so if you are going to be at the fair, we'd love to have you come in and volunteer at our booth. And of course, we take Iowans to the National March for Life in Washington, D.C. Registration will open in November for that. That's another long-standing event that we have provided for Iowans across the state. Many in the Sioux City Diocese have attended with us every year. In fact, that's where Carmen and I met.
Oh, all right. I did not know
And
that.
and then of course our Iowa March for Life, which will be coming up in June. So those are just a few of the highlighted things that we do here at
Just a
Pulse.
few.
Well, that's just incredible. We're so blessed to have Pulse in our state. And what might surprise our listeners about what you do in your work as an organization?
Well, I don't know if it would surprise, but I would mention that we are the only statewide organization that does follow the teachings of the Catholic Church. We're not Catholic in name. We didn't go through the formal process to become a Catholic organization, but we do, in our bylaws, state that we do follow the teachings of the Catholic Church when it comes to the life issues. And so, with that being said, we are one of the only statewide organizations that really take a strong position on educating on the ills of contraception and on the beauty of natural family planning and theology of the body, as well as educating on in vitro fertilization and why not only as Catholics we are against that, but why it is in many cases against the life issue. And a lot of people don't like to tackle some of those topics, but they're so important and they're really fundamental. They're really fundamental to the pro-life movement because the contraception mentality is really at the root of abortion, because more contraception, contrary to what people think, more contraception leads to more abortion. And so we've really taken a strong position on trying to educate not only the moral implications of it, but the physical implications, and that it is not life affirming.
You do such great work. We did a podcast earlier with the Shiloh Ministry on IVF, and it was just, I think it's a topic that just needs more attention. I don't know that everyone is up to speed on the church teachings with that. So thank you for your part in that. I do appreciate it. And you mentioned the March for Life, and that is coming up. Maybe people don't know what the Iowa March for Life is. Would you just give us a brief overview and when it is and where it is?
So, as I had previously mentioned, Roe v. Wade was the court decision that legalized abortion in our country for all 9 months of pregnancy. So, for over 50 years, we've had federal abortion law. But nearly 3 years ago, a court decision called Dobbs was able to overturn Roe v. Wade. And so, on the date of that reversal, we decided we really needed to celebrate that reversal. And so every year now, this will be our third Iowa March for Life. And this year it will be on June 21st. And it's an opportunity for those in Iowa to come together and celebrate that reversal, but also help people understand our work is not done. And I think there was still a lot of confusion early on thinking, oh, Roe v. Wade is overturned, no abortion. I wish that were the case. But what it did is it put abortion law back into the hands of individual states. And as such, that means that here in Iowa, we do still have abortion. Now, we were very blessed to have our heartbeat law passed and finally enforced. which means you can't have an abortion after a fetal heartbeat can be detected. But we are still having abortions here. And so we also want to bring that to the forefront, that there's still work that needs to be done here in our state. So June 21st, we'll gather at noon in the rotunda of the Iowa State Capitol. We will have many pro-life organizations have booths, so you can get information about all the different work that is happening out there, which is just amazing. I mean, there's so many things happening with pregnancy resource centers and maternity homes and help for women, and then the education and advocacy groups. So the pro-life movement has a lot going on. So if you're not aware of it, that alone would be eye-opening. And we'll have some music playing during that time. And then our actual rally will start at 1 o'clock. We'll have a 45-minute rally to get you pumped up and educate you. And then our actual march will happen at 1:45. And we will march around the Iowa State Capitol, around the Supreme Court building, and then back and have some kind of, refreshments and that sort of thing at the conclusion. So we really encourage you to attend. We would love, I know Cedar Rapids area is getting a bus and Dubuque area is getting a bus. I would love for Sioux City area to get a bus and come join us for that. It's just a really good opportunity to network with all the folks out there doing this work and just educating yourself on what's happening in our state.
There could be a bus planned and we just don't know about it. So if you're listening and you have a bus, let us know. We'll help get the word out. I've just been so impressed that yes, we talk about life being so precious at conception and birth, but it's so wonderful, these pregnancy centers that accompany the women, because they need help with the diapers. They need help with, maybe they don't know how to be a mom, and there's so many centers out there in our area and beyond that have parenting classes and help with clothing and car seats. And, it's like, we're not going to abandon you after you're in the delivery room. It's great.
Dawn, that is so true. And that's one of the biggest myths in the pro-life movement, is that we only care about the baby in the womb. And, if people just spent 1 minute delving into anything in the pro-life movement, you'd see how incredibly false that is. If you get to our website and pulseforlife.org and you click on pregnancy, you're going to find a list of 55 pregnancy resource centers in the state of Iowa. Wow. 55. So we do help women after their children are here in a big way. So there's probably not anywhere in the state where you can't find a center within a reasonable driving distance that is going to help you with your pregnancy, or if you want to place your child for adoption, is going to help you through that process as well. So we are here to help. Yes, we want to eliminate abortion because it's harmful to women, but we are going to help you once you've made that life-affirming choice.
And that just means that there's opportunity for all of us to be involved and to support, pro-life efforts. Because as you mentioned, it is, that foundational teaching in the church. And, for those who might not feel as comfortable with, being on the front lines of advocacy on the legal side of things, there's sure an opportunity to be involved in pregnancy resource centers. And whether that's donating your time, food, diapers, all of that, there's room in the pro-life movement for everyone's gifts and their talents and the desires that they have to help others.
And I think it was the USCCB that came out and said, yes, the Dobbs decision, but we need to accompany women as parents. So
absolutely. And oftentimes I find, in small ways, just by talking about this issue, which I know sometimes it's uncomfortable for people, but again, as Catholics, we are called to talk about these issues. This is part of our evangelization. Part of our evangelization is the social issues. It's about our faith, and that's our foundation, but the social issues tell us, how are we to live, right? Every day, how are we to actually live our lives as Catholics, as Christians? And that's by following the social teachings of the Catholic Church, which means we have to talk about them. If we don't have conversations with our family, with our community, then how are we ever going to create a culture of life? And I know that sometimes people get uncomfortable, and it's this whole mentality, I don't want to offend anybody, and I don't want to upset anybody. But, sometimes in love, we are called to be truthful to our brothers and sisters. And that may start with just a simple conversation.
So much starts at the dinner table.
Right.
So much of what we do. Are there any other upcoming projects or events that you want to share, either with your organization or in the state?
Yeah, so I mean, if you get tapped into our newsletters, our e-newsletters, if you just go to our website, pulseforlife.org, we are very active on our website is updated very often, as well as social media. I know some people have a love-hate a relationship with social media. It can be used for good.
Yes, it can.
And we're very active on that, and that's usually where we get a lot of the great information coming out, breaking news, that sort of thing. So if you want to get tapped into what's happening, not only in our state, but across the country, that would be a really great thing to do is get on our website and sign up for, our newsletters and that sort of thing. Because that's kind of where we let people know what we've got going on. We'll be promoting the March for Life and all of our speakers and updates with that. And then, of course, through the fall, with the 40 Days for Life and opportunities to pray with Life Chain and, October being Respect Life Month. We always have different things that we encourage people to do. And then, of course, we love to have you come to our fundraising gala in November, November 22nd. And we are having a really great speaker. We're having Kristen Hawkins, who's the president of Students for Life for America.
She's an incredible speaker. That is awesome.
It's so dynamic. If you get on Students for Life, any of your listeners, and just take a look, talk about modern day evangelist. She is just a strong Catholic as well, but she goes to college campuses and she takes on students in a loving way, but a real truthful way. She is bold beyond bold.
Wow.
And so we're so excited that she's going to be our speaker. So we actually really encourage people to bring their kids, their teenagers especially. She would be so great to get them fired up about life. She's a dynamic speaker. So we'll be putting information out about that, but that's at November 22nd in Des Moines. And it would be really great.
We look forward to your press release and materials sent to me.
Yeah.
And we'll also put a link in our show notes to your website, so people can look around and sign up for the newsletter.
Perfect.
So in case they're driving and they can't write it down right now listening to the podcast.
And I would say too, for Catholic churches, we have a tab on our website specifically for Catholic churches.
Okay.
So if you are listening and you're part of a church and you want to see how you can get more pro-life information in your church, just click on that tab. We've got all kinds of like bulletin things, like little quotes and different life things that you can put in your bulletin. We've got homily things. We got prayers of the faithful, and then of all of our video series if you want to do a Bible study in your church. So again, we're here to equip, and especially our Catholic churches. We really want to get them more invested in the pro-life movement and provide more options for their parishioners.
And I'm sure you do have participation from some Protestant sects as well.
Oh, absolutely. We are ecumenical. And so we do have another tab for Protestants as well,
Okay.
that talks about the different options that we have for them as well. So you bet.
Well, those are excellent resources.
Yes.
I really hope that our parishes, take advantage of them, and I'm sure some are already aware and taking advantage of those options and resources. Well, thank you so much, Maggie, for your time today, for sharing all of the great work that Pulse Life Advocate offers to the people of Iowa, defending life at all stages. I love that mission from the beginning of life all the way to that natural passing. So just invite everyone, to mark your calendars for June 21st so that you can venture on down to Des Moines for the Iowa March for Life. I think that those networking opportunities and just being made aware of so many things that are happening, so many good works that are happening in this area would be well worth that investment of your time. And thank you all for following Illuminating Catholic Catholics. We appreciate it if you would subscribe to the podcast on your podcast app. We want you to access every episode and learn more about the faith and events in the Diocese of Sioux City.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church. Follow us for more episodes on topics of the Catholic faith. For more diocesan news, visit lumenmedia.org.